Okay, afternoon. Thanks for joining this 5 in 20 talk. I'm going to be talking about why most websites fail and how to fix this, and actually hopefully some things that you might not have thought of. So I'm going to share those insights with you today. Hopefully you can kind of all hear me, but if not, guys, you can scan the QR code there and listen via headphones. So quick introduction, my name is Will, I'm the founder of an agency called Webbox. I founded it back in 2008, so we're 17 years into doing this now. And really we help our clients with improving the performance of their website and also running their performance marketing campaigns. And we've analysed a heck of a lot of data over those years, specifically with platforms like Hotjar, where we can then better understand what drives engagement on a website. And that's really where a lot of these insights come from today. Now, we are recording today's talk, so if you want a copy of that, just come and grab me at the stand. I'll just take an email address and I can send you a copy of the recording. And I also just want to say an apology first. I'm going to move quite quickly through these points. So if you want a deep dive, just come and grab me afterwards, and I'm happy to do that. Now, many websites fall short, not because of design or technology, but because of hidden decisions that rarely get questioned. This is one of kind of like our statements that we use time and time again at Webbox. So often we'll look at our websites and we'll try and figure out why they're underperforming, why they're not generating the engagement or the leads that we'd hoped for. And we're looking at things like, oh, maybe the design isn't quite right, or maybe kind of the page speed needs to be better. But these things are really surface level. There are things under the hood, probably decisions that you made during the build process, which is leading to this downfall. And there's some of the things that I'm going to share with you today. Now, I could share 55 insights rather than 5. So I'm going to use today this kind of 80-20 rule, where I'm going to share with you 5 insights that I think will move the needle much quicker than some of the other things that we could be talking about. Now, let's jump straight into it. And our first insight is all around having unclear messaging or an unclear value proposition. Now, there's some nodding heads already. People can relate to this. So could you tell me what this business does? Well, probably not, because you land on that website's homepage and you've got no idea what that company does. But if we make this more personal and we think about our own businesses or organizations, it's actually very difficult to describe what it is that you do in just one sentence. And actually, ideally, kind of like 6 to 8 words. It's really difficult to think of the words that summarize what you do and who you do it for, but it is so important to driving engagement on our sites. The websites that we analyze that don't have a clear value proposition right up front have a much lower engagement rate because people don't understand what it is that actually you offer and then have to dig for that information, and at that point they lose interest. We need to be much clearer and much more to the point in terms of what we do. Now, I appreciate we're a wide audience today, kind of all industries are probably covered here. There might be some people who think this might not be relevant for you, but I can assure you that in every sector we've looked at, this adds a huge amount of value if you can get it right. And we call it having this kind of killer one-liner that describes what it is that your organization does to allow people then to engage with you in further content on your site. Now, this is what we do at Webbox. So our kind of proposition is the digital partner for organizations that improves lives. Now, that for us balances getting this across in 8 words, but also gives a bit of an intrigue. So what is an organization that improves lives? Well, that could be through better education. That could be through getting healthy. That could be through sport and so on. So there's some of the kind of areas in which we work in, and that's obviously relevant for us. The challenge is how can you put your proposition together in around about 6 to 8 words. Now, if you think about this on a website, that's what you lead with. So in your hero section, those kind of like 6 to 8 words are bang straight in the middle, but then underneath you get the opportunity to explain a little bit more about what you do, which is how we've done it here. Now, moving into our second insight is every website we tend to look at has an area of this, which is it's designed for you and your internal structures and for your stakeholders, not for your target audience. So quick show of hands, pop your hands up if you involved external stakeholders in the last website build project that you were involved with. 4. Okay, 5. So this basically sums up my point, okay? So what we're doing is we're designing websites completely based on what we think our target audience needs, or what we think looks good, or a user experience that we think is right for our target audience. And only 5 people today are expressing the fact they included their stakeholders or external user groups in that process. That is a huge flaw, right? Because ultimately, we're not designing a site for us, we're designing a site for our target audience. What are their needs? Why do they come to our website? How frequently do they come to our website? And so on. These are things that you need to tease out in focus groups to better understand the purpose of your website and how you can best address your ICP. So have a little think about this for your specific organization. What would that look like? So if you're going to redesign your site at the moment, how would you engage your target audience in that process? Now, there are a number of ways to do that, and we can deep dive another time, but a really easy way to do it is, as part of your design process, start to set up some focus groups. So get people involved in that design process, because ultimately, as we've said, we're not designing for you, we're designing for them. So why are they coming to the website? What are the most pressing things that they're looking for, which will then start to dictate how you do the design, the hierarchy, the navigation, and so on. So it's led by them and not you. Number 3, weak or missing call to actions. Now, I'm sure you'll say to me, well, of course our website's got a call to action, right? You know, we've got a contact page, or we've got an inquiry form, or a lead gen form, we've got a landing page. And that's all well and good. And do you know what? Most websites do tick that box. However, you're only addressing a small segment of your market. So those people who are ready to commit, those people who are ready to convert, they're ready to engage with you as an organization, will then use that form. But what about the rest of the people? Those people who are maybe just wanting more information, those people who just want to kind of maybe be part of your brand or your community or get involved in an event you're running, those people still need relevant call to actions. And this is what we call a secondary call to action, where it might not be bottom of your funnel, you know, inquiry, sale, lead gen, but it's kind of like, why don't you download a guide? Why don't you jump on a webinar with us? Why don't you have this white paper? All of these things are softer conversion points that people can much more easily kind of convert with, rather than just this bottom of the funnel inquiry, which actually is a big step for a lot of people. So again, think about how this applies to your organization, because it might not be white papers and webinars are relevant for you. It could be that different secondary call to actions are needed, but it's really important to get people in the fold. Little sense check you can do, and this is by no means scientific, but when you look at one of your landing pages, kind of reset your eyes by looking out of the window and then look back at the screen and ask yourself, what were your eyes drawn to? Because if your eyes are drawn to nothing, or maybe you're not sure where to look, then there's going to be a hierarchy issue. So maybe there's too much going on in the design, maybe there's nothing standing out, and you need to then look at the kind of UI of the websites to adjust where the call to actions are and the content hierarchy to solve that problem. As I say, not scientific, but it is a good sense check. Moving on to number 4, and this is having a confusing navigation or content structure. How often have you been to a site and you're not quite sure how to navigate around it or where to find content, and you, in essence, you just give up, right? Because we're not going to hang around that long. So this is a major pain point. And when we review a lot of data through lots of different platforms, you know, from Google Analytics through the Hotjar and others, you start to realize this is a common pain point across all sites, okay? So people are navigating around, they can't find the information they're looking for, maybe it's too many clicks, it's too deep, there's not a search facility, so on and so forth. And at that point, they're gone. You've lost them, you know, their patience is the end. This is something which we need to get serious about, because navigation, again, as a website build project, seems to be like a bit of an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, we need to put some links in here, and we'll kind of broadly put them together in a sensible structure. Or what happens, and we've seen this again time and time, is the navigation starts really clean and well structured, but over the years of your website, that kind of just degrades as more and more people put things into the navigation, and you kind of just get this really cluttered look to your site, okay? And there's a few nodding heads for that. You as marketers have got to be the kind of custodian internally to say, look, guys, I know this has got to be on the site, but probably not for our primary navigation. Maybe it needs to go into a secondary nav, into the footer nav, or be found somewhere else, because we've got to guard our navigations against getting too busy. So a couple of little things you can do on navigation, and I'm going to split it into 3 sections. So first is layout. So think about the layout of your navigation. You've all been to websites where you've seen a traditional navigation across the top, but I'm sure you've also been to that websites where there's just a hamburger icon. So there's actually nothing at the top bar those 3 lines, and then you click on that to reveal the navigation. Some websites will have 2 layers of navigation shown, so like a smaller font used at the top and then your navigation below. There's loads of different layouts, and you need to think about what's right for your organization based on the quantity of content you have on your site. So layout is the first thing. Second is hierarchy. Not everything can be top priority. Not everything can be in your primary navigation. So start to think about what are the main things people come to our site for that they're looking for. Put those within your primary navigation, and then the secondary things can be put into other navigations. That could be down in your footer, that could be through an expanded hamburger navigation or something in the middle. Now, if you're not sure how to split this, a really easy way to start is have a look at your Google Analytics data and understand which pages most people are navigating to. Because if 2 people and their dog are navigating to a page which is like got pride and place in your navigation, that in itself just tells you it doesn't need to be in your primary navigation. Third point is content. So often we use internal buzzwords in our navigations or sector relevant kind of acronyms, and they might only mean something to you internally. We need to make sure that our navigations are built for people who don't know your organization and potentially don't know your sector. Because if we build for those, everyone else will understand. Okay, so the navigation has to use words that are simple and clear. And this sounds really obvious, but when we audit websites time and time again, this is not the case. So if you're a service-based business, quick hands up, any service-based business here? Okay, cool, it's about a third of you. So if you're a service-based business, our tip here is to start thinking about solutions rather than services. So we think about services because internally, we might split our teams by service offering. But actually, when the customer comes along, they don't think necessarily in service. They're coming with a problem that they need a solution for. So if I can just use Webbox as an example, we could say we do website design, PPC management, social media, paid ads, so on and so forth. They would be our list of services, but you might not know that you need SEO over PPC or paid social over programmatic. But ultimately, you're coming to us with the pain point, which is I need to generate more leads. So let's talk in your language. The solution then is you're struggling with lead generation. And then through a conversation, we can say, okay, well, these are the services that we would recommend for you. So apply that approach to your organization and think about solutions as opposed to just listing the services that you offer. Now, moving into our 5th insight, and this is all about rigid technology. So again, through the data that we analyze and through talking to all of our clients over the years, this is a real pain point, okay? So all of this kind of CRO, conversion rate optimization, is only possible when you can be doing split testing and changing and testing different things all of the time to see continuous improvement. But you can't do that if you're using rigid technology. So if your website is built on something where you can't make these changes yourself, or you can't try different layouts, you can't spin up new landing pages, and there's some nodding heads here, then that is going to be one of your biggest downfalls, okay? You need a framework, a CMS, that is flexible enough for you to be able to make these changes. Because ultimately, if we come back to this core point, you want to be analyzing data and making data-driven decisions on your site. Well, you can't make and implement those changes if every time you've got to do that, you've got to go to a developer, okay? Because you're just going to be slowed down, okay? So there will always be things that you have to go to a developer for. Fine, that's no problem. But you need to be able to do the kind of day-to-day yourself. And so many kind of websites that we audit don't put you in that position. Now, if you're currently in that kind of process where maybe you're looking to rebuild the site and you're not sure which kind of CMS or framework to use, we do have a comparison guide which just kind of looks at 5 or 6 different CMSs and frameworks and compares them side to side So if you want to kind of look at that, you can scan the QR code or just take one of the cards on the seats, which has the same QR code with it. Now, as I come into land, I just want to share a few things in terms of how we might be able to help you kind of move these things forward. So if you're seeing maybe underperformance on your website, then one of the best things you could do today is request one of our complimentary digital audits. So we'll audit your website or your PPC campaign and come back to you with our recommendations. Now, the big difference with our audits is that it's not running you through some automated tool or some AI tool that we've created. This is one of our teams sitting down and going through things page by page with their experience and insights of what works and what doesn't, and sharing that kind of insight with you. So it's a manual process where we get under the skin as to why your website conversion rate might be lower than your competitors. So if you want to apply for one of those slots, we normally open 5 per month. Then you can scan the QR code or just come and grab us on the stand. Oh, sorry, that was a cable. Tripping over my own cable. Come and grab us on the stand and we can kind of get that arranged for you. Secondly, we've got a ton of resources. So these little postcards on your chairs, feel free just to take one. They've got access to loads of documents and guides, like how-tos and stuff, just to help you in your day-to-day. So everything from how to write a website brief all the way through to getting more out of Facebook ads. So loads of stuff there for you to get involved with. And then finally, we run a load of webinars and we'd love to invite you to those. So scanning this QR code will just take you to our Eventbrite page and you can sign up to any of our webinars and join those. We normally run about 2 a month and they're CPD accredited. So they're all about kind of educating and sharing insights as to what works and what doesn't work. So some of the topics coming up at the moment are on screen. Love to have you there if you're able. But for now, just want to say a massive thank you for joining this talk. Appreciate it's over lunchtime, so it's kind of well into the day. But just thank you for listening. And if you've got any questions or if you want to request the audit, just come and grab us. Our stand is by the main door. Thank you.